What's up, everybody? Welcome in. Refuse to Lose podcast here on this Thursday. Brady Farkas with you from Roundtable Sports. The Mariners are American League West champions. First and foremost, we're doing this live again, third time in a week going live. So you can get in any questions, comments, stories you have. You can do it if you're watching on YouTube. You can do it if you're watching on X. I will take as many kind of comments or things that you want to say as possible. Probably be here maybe an hour or so, so come and go as you please over that time. I wanted to do this, even though I know it's before the game tonight. I wanted to do this before the Seahawks game as well. So because I know that a lot of people are going to be watching the Hawks also in addition to the Mariners. So rather than wait around till after the game, I wanted to try to get this done early leading up to both games. So just a quick reminder, the Refuse to Lose podcast comes out usually every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Amending things a bit here for the playoff run, going live as often as we can. So appreciate everybody who is with us. All of our written content is available at Roundtable Sports as well. Just Google us, Brady Farkas Roundtable, Mariners Roundtable Sports. Myself, my coworker, Taryn Kowach, do the best we can to bring you all the Mariners coverage you need, both in podcast form and in written form. Buster Olney is going to stop by. Usually Buster is with us kind of earlier in the day on Thursday, and I just put out the interview. Buster traveling back from Chicago today because they had Cubs and Mets on ESPN last night. So Buster will stop by maybe halfway through this podcast, and we will talk to him live as well. Mariners come into today 89-69. First place all alone, American League West champions for the first time since 2001. And tonight they play for a first-round bye as they go for a sweep of the Colorado Rockies. Without further ado, let go.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And here we go.
I want to start with this. Somebody was, and it wasn't malicious, somebody was kind of unclear why this Mariners run meant so much to me. And I'm going to tell you why it means so much to me. And I'm going to have a good guess that it means so much to you for a lot of the same reasons. Why this is so important. Why 2 days ago when they clinched a playoff spot mattered. Why yesterday when they won the division mattered so much. And it mattered so much because, frankly, this is the moment we've been waiting for, and it's the moment that has never come or hasn't come for a very long time. And when you go through the pain and suffering and emotional investment that we've all gone through to finally see it paid off, that really, really matters. And I put this out on social media the other night on Tuesday, and it's kind of the best way that I can sum it up. Whether you have been a fan for 5 years or 50 years almost since the franchise's inception or anywhere in between, basically, you have experienced a lot of fan heartbreak and a lot of fan trauma. And I once had somebody tell me, well, Brady, just stop being a Mariners fan. Pick somebody else. Or why do you still like the Mariners? If they're just going to treat you, if they're just going to do this to you, if they're going to put you in a bad mood, find another team or stop watching. And the answer to the question, why didn't you just walk away or why didn't you give up, is because of moments like Tuesday and moments like Wednesday. It's been hard to be a Mariners fan for a lot of their existence, right? I think about my story, 35 years old, and I grow up and you're in this kind of, at the time, what is the Mariners' sweet spot, right? What is at that point the best portion of their history? My earliest memories are Griffey and Edgar and Buhner and A-Rod and Randy Johnson. And you're imitating Ken Griffey Jr. in the backyard, and you're playing Ken Griffey Jr.'s slugfest, and the Mariners are kind of the it team. And then from that point forward, you look at what happens. The team trades away or loses in succession, 3 consecutive years. At that point, 3 of the best players in their franchise's history. Randy Johnson is gone in 98, Griffey's gone after 99, and A-Rod's gone after 2000. Then they win 116 games in 2001 and don't win the World Series. And then we start the drought that a lot of us wore around as a cloak of failure for 20 plus years. And in that time, the seasons ran the full emotional gamut. We saw him win 93 games twice in the early 2000s and miss the playoffs. We saw them have totally wasted years. We saw them get close but no cigar. We wanted to believe in free agent signings that didn't work out, whether it be Carlos Silva or Richie Sexton or Adrian Beltre or Sean Figgins. We wanted to believe, and we were never rewarded for that belief. We wanted to believe in top prospects, right? We wanted to believe in Nick Franklin and Dustin Ackley and Justin Smoke and Jesus Montero and Michael Pineda, and we were never rewarded for that either. We wanted to believe in the big swing in Eric Bedard and Cliff Lee, and we were never rewarded for that either. We saw not only the great homegrown players that turned into stars here leave, we saw guys who became great players leave, like Shin-Soo Choo and Adam Jones, and become great players somewhere else, and we were left wondering holding the bag, wondering what could have been. The Mariners wasted the career of Felix Hernandez, by and large, and Kyle Seager, by and large. We fell in love even with guys that were semi-mediocre, like Jason Vargas, because we wanted to believe in something, and that something never came. And we adopted sayings like death to flying things for Franklin Gutierrez, and it never happened. Even in this run, right? The Mariners have lost the Mariners have missed the playoffs in the last week of the season, 3 of the last now 5 years, and that was traumatic. And even the guys who were supposed to help them get to this point, like Kyle Lewis and Evan White, were taken from us. So when someone asks me, why does this mean so much, or why is there so much emotion, that is the reason. Those are the reasons, because of all the times we've bought in or believed All right. So those of you that are watching on YouTube and on X, we did have a technical glitch, having some serious rainstorms where I am, knocked us out. I am back now. So appreciate those of you who are still with me and those of you who will come on and those of you who are going to live today. Well, but that is why this mattered so much. All of the issues that this fan base has gone through and all of the heartache that we have gone through. And I have to say this, while I would have been happy for any Mariners team to do what this Mariners team has done, I am very, very thrilled that it was this group. Okay, that it was this group. This group of players, I think, means something to the fan base that other groups of players haven't. And I don't want to be prisoner of the moment, and I don't think I am. I genuinely mean this. This group of players has taken ownership of this franchise. They have worn the stench of failure in the same way that we have. They have carried the burden with them. And I know that because I've watched them, I've seen them, I've met them, I've listened to them for years. This means something to them too. And because it means something to them, I think it means more to me. You look at how this team was built, and by and large, they've grown up here. They've grown up as Mariners, whether you're talking about Cal and Julio, Logan Gilbert, George Kirby, Brian Wu, Bryce Miller. Okay, these guys have grown up as Mariners. J.P. Crawford, they have ownership of the organization now. And they're veterans in a lot of cases who have ownership of the organization for a number of years. Another reason why I'm happy it's this group of players, because this group of players has exhibited a loyalty to the organization and a fan base that we aren't used to seeing as Mariners fans. Okay, so often the story of the Mariners' history has been the guys that were great and then ultimately left. Griffey, Randy, A-Rod, Ichiro didn't necessarily leave on his own, but he wasn't a career Mariner. Okay, these guys that didn't, Adrian Beltre, who had a chance to stay the pillow contract year and left, right? Guys that were great here and then ultimately left. This group has been great and has showed a loyalty that really resonates with the fan base. First, right, there's Luis Castillo signing a long-term extension after the trade in 2022. There's Julio signing a long-term extension before he even finished his rookie year. There's Cal Raleigh signing an extension before he needed to this year. There's J.P. Crawford being the first one to sign a long-term extension, to believe in what the organization was building and what the fan base was, and what the fan base was all about. That stuff matters. Those guys believed, and therefore we believed in them. And you can tell that they are as invested as we are. And that really, ultimately, is all you can ask for. Okay, that is all you can ask for. And that means a lot to me also. So when someone asks you why it's so special, it's everything I've said for 10 minutes or so. It is through all the pain and trauma and false hope that we've been through and overcome, but it's also because of the players who are invested just like we are. And it's the players who have wanted this as bad as we have. For the players who failed in 21, for the players who failed in 23, for the players who came up just short in 24, for even the front office executives who did too. This group, this core has been together. And while it's a less time period of suffering than the fans have, they have suffered as well. And to see them be the group to do this, that was special also. I plan on being at the playoffs in Seattle for what is hopefully the division series in games 1 and 2. I plan on being there. If you were there Tuesday and Wednesday, man, I am jealous of you. For you to see the playoff berth, for you to see the division clincher, for you to see the group happy dance right by the mound, for you to see Trent Thornton ride around in the scooter, for you to see Cal hit 60, for you to see Cal and Julio go back to back, for you to see Castillo with his best start of the year, I am jealous of you. Because I talked about Houston being cathartic for me as a fan. That had to have been cathartic as well. That had to have been cathartic for you to be there in person and to break down the door. I'm pumped for everybody who is a part of this, from the players to the fan base, because as I told you all along, right? I have wanted this so bad for all of us to justify the emotional capital that we've put in, to justify the financial capital that you've put in, right? How many of you have bought tickets and gone to games and paid for hotels and traveled to cities and bought light rail tickets and bought jerseys and T-shirts and souvenirs and concessions? I mean, how many thousands of dollars have you spent on your Mariners fan existence to never get the proper reward? And now we are finally getting it. And we are finally on our way to hopefully getting the ultimate reward. The Mariners are the only team to never reach the World Series, and they aren't necessarily going to get there this year, but damn well, they are on their way to having the chance. And that is all you can ask for. For all the lovable loser stuff, for all the close but no cigars, for all the wasted years, we are being paid off right now with this special season and this special group. Got a message in from our guy Nick, who says that I'm speaking facts. Nick, appreciate you for listening. Again, we did have a bit of a technical glitch, some serious rainstorms where I am, but we are all good now. So you can get in if you're watching here on YouTube. You can get in if you are watching on X. I appreciate everybody who is. If you are watching in one of those things, just give me a little shout out, just so I have an idea that you're there and that we're working. I know I'm recording well. I just want to make sure that you all are seeing it. Again, Buster Olney is going to come up here in a little while as well. Buster is on standby for us. He was on his way back from Chicago from Mets and Cubs, which was on ESPN last night. Also, I don't know if this is a line that you remember that sticks with you, but I was on a flight recently, and I was watching Remember the Titans, and there's a line at the end of the movie where Coach Yost says to Coach Boone, he says, "What you did with those boys, Herman, or what you did with those boys, you were the right man for the job, Herman." And that's how I feel about Dan Wilson right now. Hey, Dan Wilson was the right man for the job. And you know what? It's not because Dan Wilson is the best, puts out the best lineup. It's not because Dan Wilson makes all the right pitching changes or all the right pinch hit decisions. It's because Dan Wilson can do two things. One, he can communicate. And two, he can understand us as Mariners fans, and he can understand Mariners culture. And that, I think, is important for this group. I am not always a guy who says go back to the well of the glory days, right? Like, I am not always that guy. I could see, right? We saw Jim Harbaugh end badly at Michigan. Like, when you bring back the hometown hero, it can end poorly. And I recognize that, and I don't always welcome that. But now we look back at it in hindsight, and it's clear that Dan Wilson's being a Mariner, I think, matters. And Dan Wilson's ability to understand the angst that comes with being a Mariner is important. And Dan Wilson's ability to convey and relate to players about what it's like to be a Mariner matters. Dan Wilson, I'm sure, like, we can go back and find. I remember talking about it in April pitching situation with the Reds, right? We've seen the time. There's many times, I'm sure, where Dan Wilson has, quote, fallen short in an in-game management scenario. But the thing that Dan Wilson does well is relate to his players and manage his players. And if you remember back to Monday's episode when I was stuck in Houston, we had Doug Glanville, the former Major League outfielder, on, and he said that what Dan Wilson does is arguably the most important thing any manager does now at all.
It's critical. You will not have a managerial job if you can't communicate, if you don't know how to talk to the media, if you don't know how to talk to your player. That's probably the key part of the job now, because the data is there, right? Everybody has information and scouting reports and analytics, and you can figure out how to manage a bullpen using the algorithms that are available. And certainly there's some managers that are better at certain aspects, but they have a lot of support. But what is not that much supported is that you have to have the ability to communicate, and that's kind of on you to talk to your players, to know when to talk to your players, to know how to talk to the press and communicate and protect your players. All that really comes to play. Dan Wilson's been excellent at it.
Dan Wilson's been excellent at it. And it's been apparent to me since the first day I was at spring training, February 25th or 26th or something like that, that the players like him, the players respect him, the players like his attitude, and the players like his even-keeled nature. They feel comfortable around him, and that is incredibly important, and Dan Wilson has done it well. He was the right man for this job at this time. Does it mean he's the best manager ever? He's going to the Hall of Fame? No, not necessarily. But he was the right manager for this team at this time, and I'm happy for him as well. All right, on that note, let's go out to the phone line and bring in our guy, Buster Olney, our ESPN MLB insider who is with us every single Thursday. Today, a little later than usual, but we go out to Buster. Buster, Mariners are American League West champions. That feels good to say. And by the way, I had a great time hanging out with you in Houston. We did that on Saturday and Sunday, watching some games together as you were there for ESPN's coverage. So I appreciate the chance to have been with you in person. Buster Olney of ESPN. Good afternoon, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, it was super fun. Hanging out on Saturday, sitting side by side, watching that game, and talking about Cal Raleigh and everything going on with him and what the clubhouse is like, and it was a lot of fun. And thanks for all your insight.
Well, I appreciate it. It was fun to sit next to you for the game and kind of see how your brain works watching the game versus mine, and just kind of always fun kind of seeing what other people notice. So I enjoyed it as well. And Buster, look, appreciate it. It was fun. It's been a long season. For the game and kind of there were many points, admittedly, where I didn't think that we'd get here, but we are here. Are you surprised the Mariners have won the American League West?
No. I mean, how many? It's so funny when you're saying that about, the twists and the turns and stuff. It felt like I must have talked you off the ledge of like 5 times.
Yes, 100%.
During the course of the year, which is great. But, how they got here is a surprise with all these wild swings. And here's the thing. I think we have learned that, as Jekyll and Hyde as the Mariners were at times this year, that's baseball in 2025. All kinds of Jekyll and Hyde. I think some of that is the pitching injuries. Maybe some of it is because of the bullpen volatility around baseball. The Mariners have certainly experienced that from time to time. But yeah, I think in the end, over 162 games, the Mariners have demonstrated, especially with the Astros all banged up with injuries, that they are the best team in the American League West. Shoot, they might wind up, having a first-round bye.
Yeah,
but it's different place than a month ago.
Certainly, right? They were 2-7 through an East Coast road trip in August. They were 3-6 through another East Coast road trip in August and September. But here they are. They've won 16 of 17. And Buster, fan bases always like to share, stories of trauma. I know I'm biased, but it feels like this fan base in particular deserves this moment.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, goodness. It's the best Mariners team since 2001. Think about all the years and all the investment, which is why, when I talked to you off the ledge, it really was you were dealing with some PTSD as a Mariners fan. Mm-hmm. Because of all the the times that the football had been pulled away from you, Charlie Brown, through the years. And so for them to, finish up the way that they have, go into Houston, which to me was just such an exclamation point. It must feel good. And who would have guessed that they would actually go into the final weekend? It feels like maybe potentially with a position or, an opportunity, going into the final weekend and through the first days when other teams are playing playoffs to set up their pitching.
I don't know that it's as big as Michael Jordan finally getting past the bad boy Pistons. I don't know that it's that big, but going into Houston, it really did feel like an exercising of demons, Buster.
And that makes sense. In some respects, I remember, it's a parallel situation. 3-4 years ago when Peter Seidler, the late great owner of the Padres, came on Sunday Night Baseball and he talked about, slaying the dragons up the freeway. He's referring to the Dodgers, and the Padres, got to have had moments like that where it's just like, okay, the big brother, which is beating up on us, we finally get some revenge against that team. And that's exactly what they experienced. And I will say, I don't know how you felt, but just being around the Astros, and we were there, when they're playing with that Yordan Alvarez on Friday and Saturday, and then, I'm standing out in the cage by the batting cage, and we get word that Jeremy Pena has been scratched with an oblique issue. It just has felt like that, they have just taken injury after injury after injury after injury. I think it's remarkable that the Astros even competed for the division this year. The Mariners, to me, are clearly the better team. And I think it's been phenomenal that Houston's been able to hang in there as long as they have, despite being so shorthanded.
I can't speak to the Astros mindset. What I can tell you is from a fan base's perspective with the Mariners, Buster, there was definitely a feeling of, if not now, then when? Fans recognized the Astros' vulnerabilities and the injury issues and said, okay, if they can't do it now, they'll never be able to do it. And credit to them, they were able to take the opportunity given to them and run with it, especially down the stretch.
Exactly. And be as good of a team as we envisioned after they Jerry made those trades for Naylor and for Suarez at the trade deadline. And as they got guys back healthy in the rotation, you absolutely give them credit. I give Cal Raleigh so much credit for the year that he's had leading that way. Julio, with what he's doing, it does feel like as the season's gone on, between the additions and some of the starting pitchers coming back healthy, they are, have just put it together week after week after week.
I don't want to be hyperbolic, but I don't think that this is. I think Cal Raleigh is already a Mariners Hall of Famer at this point. Like, you look at what he did in 2022 to send them to the playoffs and break the drought. You look at the leadership, the ownership, the loyalty, the commitment to the organization, 60 home runs. They're not in this position without him doing what he did, especially in the first half to help carry the lineup. It has been just an unbelievable year from an unbelievable organizational ambassador.
I think you're right. I put it this way, and I had a great conversation with Cal's father, Todd, on Sunday. If Cal decided that his dream going forward was to make maple syrup in the state of Vermont, and he never played another game, and by the way, there's no thought of that.
Yeah.
But if he never played another game, then he absolutely would go down and have a special place. Not only in Mariners baseball lore, but I think in Major League Baseball lore, because you're talking about, that's the sort of season he's having where, he is breaking all these records. Most home runs by a catcher, most home runs by a switch hitter, most home runs in Mariners history, and now having a chance to break Aaron Judge's American League record for home runs, and doing it while he's this elite defensive catcher. No matter what happens in his career going forward, we'll all have 2025. You'll have it more than I will because you're a Mariners fan, to look back on and remember him by. And it's really cool, and it's been really neat to see his response to it and fans' response to it and other players' response to Cal. People just like him so much and are so impressed by him. It's been neat to hear the stories from him about how he connected with folks like Johnny Bench who are just cheering him on as he's having this success.
A win tonight or a Cleveland loss, and the Mariners wrap up a first-round bye. Every year, we have the rest versus rust conversation. Where are you at on the importance of getting the extra days off?
So I've never talked to a manager or a general manager who said, you know what, we'd rather just keep on playing. Because, and I think that is especially true now because of the general state of pitching around baseball. These guys are on fumes. They are apt, and that's it was interesting. I walked away from seeing the Mariners last weekend with several impressions, seeing them play in person, how it felt like, okay, they have a chance to be the best team in the American League. Cal Raleigh with what he's doing, how impressive that is. And from the Mariners' perspective, I also walked away saying that bullpen is on fumes. Like they are tired. And so for them to have the luxury of, as I mentioned, having this weekend potentially to just lay back and go to guys in their bullpen and say, hey, what do we need to do to have you get ready? That is something that every manager, every general manager would want to have. And sure, you have to fill in the gap on that. You're going to have to, figure out a way to play effectively if you do in fact have days off. I'm trying to remember which manager I asked recently that question where I said, hey, how do you handle the rust versus, the rust question versus rest question? And he said, you know what, I'm going to call around. I think it was Rob Thompson. He said, I'm going to call around to managers who I know and say, how did you do this, these days off, where you have workouts, have inter-squad games, live batting practice, or you just take the day off. Everybody would prefer that now, especially with the state of the pitching staffs around baseball.
How do we think the Mariners handle Cal? Because it's interesting, right? Like they could give him some deserved days off, but they're going to have a bunch of days off. They could put him at DH, and all of that would be good. But then there's this specter of, does Dan Wilson feel obligated to play him to try to solidify the MVP, to try to hit 62 or 63? How does Dan Wilson balance what's good for the team versus baseball history?
Well, first and foremost, he's going to hit, right? He's going to get plate appearances with baseball history. You cannot, for Dan to enforce a rest with him, say Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, given what's on the table. And I'm not even suggesting that Dan's thinking about doing this, but for him to sit him down would be like pulling a pitcher with a no-hitter after 8 innings in 95 pitches. At this point, Cal has earned the right to pursue Judge's record, to hit those last 2 home runs, tie the American League record for home runs, or maybe even pass him. So he's going to play. And when we talked to Dan last weekend before the Sunday night game, made it pretty clear that Cal will push back and will tell him, look, I want to play. And here's the other thing, too, is that this time of year, it's understood that everybody's tired to a certain degree. I think the best example I can give you of that, Madison Bumgarner in 2014 had this amazing run where he threw like 52 in a third innings, and he just kept on telling, the pitching coach, Dave Righetti, manager Bruce Bochy, I'm good. And then they were celebrating right at the end of the World Series after they finished off the Kansas City Royals. And Bruce Bochy gave him a hug, and he said, Mabam, I don't know how you did it. And Bumgarner looked at him and said, I am so tired. There's that great exhale right at the end, but they're not thinking about that. Cal's not thinking about that right now. He's just thinking that, he's taking today's game. It's in front of him. He's going to play the game. They're going to have more opportunities to go here, and then at some point, he's going to get a chance to rest.
Let me ask you about Brian Wu, because Brian Wu, as we learned last weekend, right pectoral inflammation. He was supposed to start today. He is not starting today. The Mariners haven't said if he'll appear in a game before the end of the season. It is my preference that Brian Wu pitch at least a little bit this weekend against the Dodgers to get some work in so he doesn't end up with 15 days off before the division series. You've seen this before. Do you think it matters like I think it matters, or can he accomplish what he needs to, bullpen sessions, simulated games, etc.?
I think he can accomplish it with all those other things. A parallel situation just happened in the last 24 hours with Cade Horton of the Chicago Cubs. He came out of the game on Tuesday night after 3 innings, and we asked Craig Counsell on Wednesday, the Cubs manager, do you think it's important that he pitches again? And he was like, no. They have thrown enough innings and they have enough built up with their arms where they're okay. I don't know what Brian Wu is doing on a daily basis. How much catch is he playing? Is he able to throw in the bullpen? Is he, sort of working in the indoor cage without reporters watching? I don't know any of that, but I think that they're in a position where he's been so good for them this year that he has earned the opportunity to try if he's able, if I'm making sense. Yeah. And let's say that, Wu is telling him, look, I feel okay. And the Mariners are lining up their game one starter and they get clearance from the medical staff that Wu can pitch. They're going to give the ball. And they're also going to be prepared if in the first or second inning it doesn't look good or if he doesn't feel good, they'll already know where plan B, plan C, plan D is.
Buster, I got a couple of shorter questions to get you out on, but this is kind of my last longer question. There's a world where the Mariners get the 2 and there's a world where the Mariners get the 1. And when people ask me what I would prefer, I would just prefer avoid the Yankees as long as possible. Like that is what is on my mind when we talk about seedings. Like if the Mariners get the 1, I want the Yankees to get the 2 so they can avoid each other till the ALCS. If the Mariners are going to get the 2, I want the Yankees to jump Toronto and get the 1 so they can avoid them to the ALCS. The Yankees are my biggest fear for the Mariners moving forward. Does that seem justified?
Yes, I think they have the highest ceiling among the other American League teams. I think I'm going to wind up when we make our choices on ESPN.com picking the Mariners to win the World Series. But I think the Yankees have the highest ceiling among the other American League teams. So I think you are justified. That said, I don't think there's a preeminent team. I don't think the Mariners are so much better than any other team. I don't think the Yankees are so much better than any other team. The only team that I think that has a distinct advantage when you talk about the elements of a championship team, the San Diego Padres have a great bullpen. They're the only team among those that are still in contention to make the playoffs that I think that has that right now because of all the pitching issues that these clubs are having.
Like I said, 3 quicker questions. Mariners will play the Dodgers this weekend. Clayton Kershaw scheduled to start on Sunday. Final regular season start. Could be his final start ever, depending how the playoff rotation goes for LA. Mariners get to be a little part of history there, Buster.
And it'll be fun. Clayton will absolutely, he will embrace the moment. I'm sure that he's going to get a great response from the crowd this weekend. You're going to see him, respect that, honor that, appreciate that in a big way. And I'm sure top of mind for him is, what do I need to do to get ready for the post?
I'm sure you have seen this before. It maybe only interests me, but I'm going to ask it anyways. ALDS Game 2 would be next Sunday, October 5th. Seahawks play a 105 home game. You've seen this before where a baseball team and an NFL game are going to intersect each other. Just what are the conversations like and who are they with? Does baseball have to talk with the NFL? Does baseball make their own decision? Because these 2 games can't go on simultaneously because it would be a citywide nightmare logistically. But how do we go about battling when there's another event in town like that?
Boy, I got to be honest. I think it depends on the city. Depends on the situation, and I don't really have a good answer for you.
Okay, then I'll end it on this. Sunday was the last Sunday night baseball game, at least for a while. New contracts and things like that. It is not the last baseball game that ESPN will ever have, but last Sunday night game. Buster, really just to thank you. I've grown up watching Sunday Night Baseball, John Miller and Joe Morgan ever since I was 5 years old, and every permutation of Sunday Night Baseball since then. It has been a great service to baseball fans. It has been unbelievable fun, great matchups, and you've been a part of it now for a long time. So from one baseball fan to another, thank you for all that you have done for Sunday Night Baseball and ESPN. Again, not the last we've seen of ESPN baseball coverage. There will be plenty more of it in the future, but we appreciate everything that Sunday Night Baseball has brought to us over the years.
Well, that's really nice of you to say. It's been so much fun to be a part of something that's so important. And I'm like you, I I have spent a lot of time watching Sunday Night Baseball. I know John Miller really well. Got to know Joe Morgan. It has been an absolute blast to have an opportunity and an honor to be in that seat.
Well, plenty of playoff coverage for ESPN to come, both on TV and radio, and Buster's going to be a part of it. And, hey, maybe I'll see you in Seattle in the playoffs in a couple of weeks.
Boy, would that be fun.
Yes, it certainly would. That's Buster Olney, our ESPN MLB insider. I want to appreciate or thank him for his time. And again, thank him for everything that Sunday Night Baseball has meant to us as a collective fan base over the years. Now, the Mariners haven't been on Sunday Night Baseball enough as far as we are all concerned, but that's not Buster's fault, okay? And Buster's done a great job to be a part of really an institution in baseball for a long time, and we appreciate what he has done. And you know what? To the trivia question, or the answer to the trivia question, which teams were a part of the last Sunday Night Baseball game on ESPN? Seattle Mariners and the Houston Astros. And that is pretty cool to have that footnote in history, as it is cool to have the footnote in history to be the last team that Clayton Kershaw ever starts against in the regular season. So good stuff from Buster all across the board. He agrees with me the fan base deserves this. He also agrees with me that if you could have your druthers about you, you would want to miss the New York Yankees for as long as possible. There's time to get into this. There's time to see how the seedings end up. This is going to be my stock answer. I want to avoid the Yankees as far as possible. And if the Mariners get the 1, I want the Yankees to get the 2. If the Yankees get the 1, I want the Mariners to get the 2. I do not want to see a situation where the Mariners get the 2 and the Yankees end up as the 4 and potentially, or the Mariners get the 1 and the Yankees end up as the 4 and the Mariners potentially play them in the division series. That's what I don't want. The Yankees have 2 excellent lefties in Fried and Rodon. The Mariners do not hit lefties as well. The Yankees are the Yankees. The Mariners haven't won a series there, I believe, since 2013, if I'm remembering correctly. The Mariners were swept by New York this year. And to Buster's point, the Yankees have the highest ceiling in that they have Judge and Stanton and Jazz Chisholm offensively. Ben Rice is solid. And then bullpen-wise, while I know it struggled, Devin Williams, Luke Weaver, and Camilo Doval, that's as good a trio potentially as you can see. So I want to avoid the Yankees as much as possible. Also, off Buster. Buster doesn't think that Brian Wu needs to get any work in a game before the playoffs. I would still like to see it, right? I am for the Mariners getting a bye. I am for getting the rest over being worried about the rust. 15 days for Brian Wu to go without pitching in a game, that is too much for me. I would like to see Brian Wu get some action in a game-type situation. And whether that is 3 innings on Sunday, then it's 3 innings on Sunday. But something to get the mechanics right, the feel of a batter in the box, I think that matters to me. Maybe it doesn't matter to Brian Wu because he's near the 200-inning mark and he's just good, and 15 days will do him well. I would like to see him get a couple of innings in order to at least get some work in. Other things I would like to see as we get towards the playoffs. This team's going to need Eugenio Suarez and Randy Arozarena to get going. And Gino's been better of late, although we had a 4-strikeout game on Tuesday. Arozarena's like 3 for his last 45 or something. Now, I trust that he's going to be able to put together better at-bats in the playoffs because I just think he's a big game player. But if you're wondering what the Mariners need moving forward, Randy Arozarena getting going again is something that they desperately need. Okay, that is something that they desperately need. So we will have a lot of time, though, to get into that over the course of the next couple of days and over the next week, especially as it looks like the Mariners are going to get a first-round bye. They can clinch that first-round bye tonight. A win or a Cleveland loss gets them that. We will know if Cleveland is lost by the time the Mariners take the field against the Colorado Rockies. So there were a lot of times this year where it didn't feel like we would get to this point. I think back to some of the really low moments. Text says as we come in, Guardians are losing 2-0 right now. So the Mariners at the moment are on track to getting that first round bye locked up tonight. But I think back to I think the Mariners were 3-7 at the time they lost on April 6th against the San Francisco Giants, and Victor Robles got hurt, and we thought he was lost for the year. I think they were 3-7. It felt then like we'd never get to this point. The Mariners were pummeled at home, up and down the field by the Toronto Blue Jays in May. Didn't feel like we'd get to this point. They were swept at home by the woeful Orioles. They lost a series at home to the woeful Nationals. They went 2-7 through Philly and the Mets and Baltimore again. They went 3-6 through Cleveland and Tampa and Atlanta. There are a lot of points where we didn't think this was going to be the case, but here we are. You know what? They have earned it. We have earned it. We've earned the right to watch more Mariners baseball. And you know what? Feels pretty damn good to say that. Dave Niehaus once said, and I don't know if you all remember this, I don't know who's old enough to remember this, but when the Mariners won the playoff in 1995, right, the one-game playoff to get to the playoffs in 95, and they ran off the field after beating the California Angels, Dave Niehaus said, 19 long years of frustration is over, because that was the Mariners' first ever playoff berth after being, coming into play in the 70s, 1977. And look, this is 24 years of frustration. 24 years of frustration is over. And the Mariners have the best chance they've ever had, maybe outside of 01, to go and win the World Series. It's been fun to watch. It's been fun to cover. It's been fun to talk about. It's been fun to be a part of. Cal Raleigh last night was amazing. We didn't even talk about Cal, really. The 60 home runs is unprecedented. The thing that impresses me most, even, like I told you earlier, is just how much ownership he has of the franchise and of the city. That is a beautiful thing to see. But from an on-field perspective, it's been incredible to watch what he's done. They're not here without him. They're not here without a lot of different people. And the fans deserve it, and this team deserves it. And we're going to keep on going into October. We've got more special things planned here on the Refuse to Lose podcast. I can't frankly tell you exactly when we're going to air because I'm waiting on a couple of guests, trying to figure out travel. So I will be back soon. I do not have a day just yet, maybe even as early as tomorrow, depending on how things shake out. But for now, thank you to Buster Olney. Thank you to all of you. Remember, all of our written content available, Mariners on Roundtable Sports. That's where myself and Taryn Kowach are writing about the Mariners, Roundtable Sports. We appreciate everybody who checks us out there. Join our free community. It is free. Start the conversation with other Mariners fans. Kind of got we write it, and then it's got this kind of chat message board function. That's pretty cool. All free. Check it out. This podcast is free. We are here for you. And the Mariners right now have been here for us. Can clinch at least the 2 seed tonight. Mariners Rockies as the M's go for a sweep. Emerson Hancock on the mound. We'll be back at it again soon, everybody. And as always, go M's.